You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about T20 cricket and specifically England v South Africa. If we've got time, we might mention India as well. And we've got a whole load of questions that have come through on Twitter. So it's a little bit of a mailbag show as well. I'm Jack Hope, and I'm joined today by Max Rowe Brown, fresh from Guerrilla Cricket yesterday. How you doing, Max?
Indeed. Good morning. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you, Jack. And T20, more cricket, 2 games in 2 days. I'm struggling to keep up. I have to be honest.
It is a whirlwind, isn't it? Like it's
like the IPL again.
It's not quite like the IPL. It's worse. But right, Max. Before we get going, basic listeners messages for our listeners, whichever way around you want to.
Listeners messages 1.0. At the Cricket Pod, Twitter and Instagram. So follow us on social media. Keep up with all of our musings and various random posts about Ross looking like Jason Roy as he plays a lofted straight drive. You get enjoyable content there. And patreon.com/the Cricket Pod if you want to support us directly. We've just released another exclusive show where Ross and I went head to head in a summer quiz. I won't spoil the result, but it was one-sided. And
it was
really was. And that's messages 1.0, isn't it?
Yeah. Patreon.com/the Cricket Pod. That's the best way to support the show. We should also mention we are. Well, this show is sponsored by. We're advertising Manscaped on it. It's on the screen. We'll talk more about them later on in the show. The best in men's below the waist grooming, I suppose, isn't it? It's grooming. Max, let's talk about the 2 T20s. Let's do them in chronological order. What happened on Wednesday night?
On Wednesday night, well, it was a bit of a... the second game was a bit of a mirror image of this game. It was England batting first. And again, the 2 fates of England's openers over the last few weeks came to bear. Joss Butler came in, smashed 22 or 7 balls. Jason Roy looked like a rabbit in the headlights, flailing around, not really knowing where he was, stuck in some sludge, and was departed for a painful 8 or 15 balls. But that just left England's number 3, 4 and 5 to come in and do all sorts of carnage. David Milan, 43. Johnny Bairstow, 90 or 53. South Africa cursing themselves for dropping him about 5 times on the boundary, I think. And then Moeen Ali with England's second fastest 50, I think, ever in T20 cricket, 52 of 18 balls. Double quick time, saw England post a pretty mammoth 234 for 6. But it was a good pitch in the sense that it was a road and small boundaries to one side because they were playing at Bristol, which is a postage stamp. Bad start when you're chasing 234 by South Africa to be reduced to 6 for 2. Reece Topley doing the damage again. But on his, not his debut, but his first chance to actually bat for South Africa in a T20, third time lucky, one of the 2 Wunderkinds, Tristan Stubbs, blasted a quite stunning 72 of 28 balls to threaten England's total, but found little support around him, and eventually South Africa crumbled to a 40-run defeat. But it was fireworks, I think, is probably the way to describe the game.
Yeah, it was sort of maximum entertainment. Not really anything on the line. The crowd were getting really into it, weren't they? I caught up on most of this game via highlights because I was playing on Wednesday. At one point in the highlights package, England went from 189 to 219. And there were no highlights for those 5 balls when that happened. Like that or 6 balls. I think it was like literally 6 balls. I saw the score.
Yeah, I think like Peffer went for 33 off 1 over or something. Yeah, is that what they missed?
That must have been. It must have been that. Like there was a 6 that miles over cow corner, and the next highlight was just another 6 going miles over cow corner, and in between that there were like 28 runs, like 6 balls.
That
was like not even a highlight. And it was quite an extensive highlight package as well. I mean, it was sort of, there was 15 minutes of 6 hitting really. You know, for some IPL matches, you'd get 10 minutes of highlights, and 2 minutes of that would be toss news. So there was a lot of cricket shown, and I think sort of an indication of how explosive England were. We know this can happen sometimes. This is good England, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've seen a few examples of bad England recently.
That's what England are based on.
Yeah, and it works quite well. I mean, it's a pretty formidable batting lineup. We did have we asked for questions for this episode. Rahul replied, just said Tristan Stubbs. So we should probably talk about him. I mean, in a sense, once you've got over England being good, the next big story is Tristan Stubbs, right? It was a pretty good way to announce yourself in international cricket. What did he bat once in the IPL? He's had a couple of.
I think it was twice. I think it was 0 and 2 were his 2 outings for Mumbai. But
yeah, we got a real taste, didn't we, of what he could do. Yes, on Wednesday, 72 from 28 balls. That's so many runs. He 8 sixes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you make?
Really impressive. He's obviously he's a genuine triple threat. He keeps wicket, he bats and bowls some questionable off spin, including back foot no balls, no less, which was a real mixed bag from that point of view. But yeah, I think South Africa have got some really exciting talent on the horizon in the form of Tristan Stubbs, and obviously there's Dwight Brevis as well, baby AB, he was sort of the picture boy, wasn't he, of South Africa's next generation. But Tristan Stubbs is the one who's in the side and the one who's made his mark here, and just really impressed, particularly with the way he sort of took on the spinners down the ground, using his levers to maximum effect, and just all round. You know, obviously it's just the one game, but looks like there's some real talent there, and I'm very impressed. I mean, Mumbai obviously put a lot of faith in him. He was in their sort of what is it? I can't remember what it's called. But they've got this sort of like B team, haven't they? That have been going around in a sort of an academy sense in the past month or so that he's been part of. So they've obviously hoping to retain him and have him for the long haul for the next few cycles. So all coming up Stubbs at the moment.
All coming up Stubbs. Yeah, I mean, South Africa, they lost this one, and we'll talk about the next match which they won in a moment. But I think they're an okay T20 side. No, I'm sure I'm sure there's something they don't do well. They probably don't play spin very well. That tends to be what happens with South Africa. But it's De Kock, Hendricks, Riley Russo. How do you even say that? Russo.
Like Alessia.
Maybe Clarkson's a bit questionable, but he's got some pop, hasn't he? Miller, Stubbs. That's not a bad top order.
Yeah.
And then,
Nouveau David Miller as well.
Yeah, and then on the bowling side, they're Shamsi, Maharaj, Rabada, Nortje is a reasonable top 4 bowlers, and they've got to find overs. I mean, I don't love Ngidi and I don't love Quayo either.
Yeah, but, I think Pefler may be the weak link. No, we'll come on to him in terms of yesterday's game. But obviously, in this particular game, he went for 63 off his 4 overs, and he's just he's not quick enough.
Yeah,
to really trouble anyone, and he'll throw in a slower ball. But I don't think T20. I'm not sure he's quite good enough. But whether he'll be in the side if you have Nortje and Rabada and Ngidi, would you push Rabada up? You can't really push Rabada up, so you kind of need the all-rounder in there. So I think that's probably the main struggle they might have. You might see Dwayne Pretorius come in. That's possibly the answer for them in that spot if you want to go for your strongest side. But I think I said it yesterday just before the when we're doing the intro to the game on Guerrilla Cricket. I think they're a quietly good side. South Africa. They've got some good sort of component parts there, and spin. I mean, bowling spin. They've got Shamsi and Maharaj, of course, but I mean, we're talking about the T20 World Cup in Australia. Spin might, it's not really like having problems playing spin in the UAE or India or something like that. They might be able to get away with it. No, they played.
Yeah,
Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid pretty well.
Yeah, they
in this
have.
country. So,
yesterday's T20. Do you want to summarise that very briefly?
Yeah. So as I said, it's kind of a reverse. England put South Africa in for whatever reason, and South Africa got off to a bit of a flyer. It was Reza Hendricks doing the business after Moeen Ali claimed the wicket of Quinton de Kock in the power play, but 60 for 1, I think, of the 36 over was a pretty good start. They never really looked back. They constantly went at about 10 and over. England never really managed to reel them in. Only Reece Topley managing to end up with a sort of, Moeen Ali only bowled 2 overs and went for 17 to 1 wicket, so maybe underused, but Reece Topley of the Seamers, the only one to really go at a respectable economy rate. And they just sort of kept coming with the bat. Riley Russo, the star, 96 off 55. He would have been frustrated to miss out on 100 at the end, but props to Chris Jordan, who went for just the 4 runs off his final over by finally nailing his Yorkers, where up to that point he'd succeeded in only bowling half volleys and full tosses, as we tend to see with Chris Jordan's attempts at death bowling. It's we've banged on about it a few times. I think he's left behind a little bit in the.
I was going to say that I think there's a little Jordan renaissance going on.
He has had a good sort of. He's had a good few weeks. He had a good blast for Surrey. Sort of coming to the England side, and he's been quite good. But it has been still sort of the old-fashioned like Yorker. Yorker play, right? So I think it's still like sort of you get boom or bust with Chris Jordan. Sometimes he will nail it and he'll be really good, but if he does miss his lengths, it's danger.
For sure. I mean, I'd say I think he's added a few things. I think there is definitely has a slower ball now.
He does
that. I mean, he had a slower ball, but I don't think it was a very good one. Now he has a ball that he can reliably bowl. I mean, it's a slower ball bouncer. It's not like it's not the most versatile slower ball. It's not a knuckleball or something like that, is it? But it does mean you can't just camp on the front foot.
Yeah.
You have to be aware that you might have to wait for one.
In fairness, that's what he started with yesterday as well. I think for all the good batting we saw from particularly Riley Russo, England, I'm not sure they quite got it right with the ball yesterday. They missed their lines and their lengths quite a lot. But there was you could definitely see sort of in those middle overs, and Chris Jordan in particular, they kind of decided that the way to go was middle of the pitch, slower balls. It didn't really work. It didn't come off at all, and they just ended up getting flat batted back over their heads. In contrast to South Africa's bowling, who did bowl a lot of that stuff and did it pretty well. So I don't know if there was a kind of change in how the pitch was behaving between the chase and the first innings, but certainly England left a lot to be decided with the ball, and in the field as well. They were pretty sloppy. So a drastic turnaround from England's performance the day before, and South Africa as well fielded really well in the England chase. Like there were
a couple of great catches.
Maharaj's catch was stunning, and there was some just the boundary fielding in general, particularly down the ground, defending that short boundary was top notch. So it really came roaring back, South Africa, and it was a really impressive performance all round from them, I would say.
We should probably talk about England's response here. Josh Butler got them off to a pretty good start with 29 off 14. Jason Roy across the 2 matches. What did he face here? Let's do the deep dive on Roy. He faced 37 balls and he scored 28 runs.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's another really bad performance from Roy in a bad summer. When is the time to make a difficult decision?
Well, you're running out of it, aren't you? What is it? 3 months, less than 3 months to the World Cup. And how much 2020 cricket is there to play before then? We've got the Test series, and then what will we playing? Pakistan Is that
Yeah,
next
seven
up?
seven T20s in Pakistan.
7 T20s, Jesus Christ. So
I think it's 7. It's a lot.
That's mental. Well, we'll see. He'll get a bit of a going over there, won't he, with Shaheen and co. So I think maybe he's got 2 of those to do something, and if he doesn't, it might be time to roll the dice. I mean, there's a few people out there waiting, but it's pretty big to try and say, come and come into a World Cup squad and do the business in Australia for some of the younger guys that are around there in the England scene. Maybe we'll see someone put their hand up in the 100. Maybe that's the audition.
Salt surely is the prime contender.
Well, yeah, I suppose so.
Come into the team.
Yeah. The other thing you might see them doing would be like moving Johnny Bairstow up and doing something dumb. But yeah, I think probably Phil Salt next off the rank.
Well, I mean, yeah, that is another thing they could do. I mean, England have got, in yesterday's T20, Moeen batted at 4, Bairstow batted at 5, Curran batted at 6, Livingston batted at 7. Like there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
with that batting lineup.
I think a lot of that was around the left-right combo.
Yeah, no, I get that, but what I mean is that you could get rid of Roy, put Bairstow up, and just get another all-rounder, and you put Stokes in there or something like that, and then have all of these guys just coming in and doing all sorts of stuff. I think that would leave England's batting potentially a little bit light. I think players like Sam Curran are good. I don't know. I want more talent. I want Johnny Bairstow around him as an insurance policy, if that makes it. Like Curran can in theory exploit a situation which tips in his favour, and he might be very, very, very good at that, and has shown he's very, very good at that. He's a very talented player, but I don't know if it's Ben Stokes instead of Bairstow. I think that's quite a significant drop off. Yeah, so I like Bairstow in there. So maybe I'd do Roy for Salt if I was going to make a change.
I think I'd probably go with you there.
Have we learned anything else from these 2 T20s? There's one more on Sunday, is it?
I mean, Reece Topley's still doing pretty well, so I think he's making a good case for being on the plane. Obviously, don't know what the situation's like with England's injuries. Mark Wood's had more surgery, hasn't he, in a bid to be fit?
I think
for
Wokes has
World
as
Cup.
well.
Yeah, so big questions to be answered about the pace attack. I think, I suppose one of the things should be whether, from an England point of view, whether Richard Gleason can continue what he did in against the Indians. Not so good in this game. 1 for 38 off his 3 overs. Didn't really bowl particularly well. Didn't get his lines right, but he's quick. He's got some. He's pushing like high 80s. He took 3 wickets in the first game, but went for 51. So slightly more expensive against South Africa than he was against India. But I think if he has I think he'll probably get another go against Pakistan. And if he has a good run, then he's in with a shout with being in there, which is a phenomenal story for him, considering the fact that he almost retired not so long ago. But he's now in an England shirt, so that's a good one. But I think really, the questions for England are Roy, and then how many of the bowling attack come back, and what you do with that. And South Africa, I think the one thing that was what I mentioned just a little while ago about Pefler and maybe you bring in Dwayne Pretorius. He did pretty well for CSK in the IPL in the end. And I know usually you're not sold on Lankan Bowlers, but there was a really interesting thing I saw in the game yesterday. So he in the first game, took some quite interesting figures of 5 for 39 off his 4 overs. Somewhat, an expensive 5-fer, but a 5 nonetheless. But they were showing how every single one of those wickets was from a slower ball. And they did a little side-by-side of his slower ball delivery compared to his normal delivery. And it is identical. Like, it's
tunneling.
Unbelievably good how well disguised it is. And even just out of the hand, like it's an off cutter, but even out of the hand, it's so subtle. It's really, really impressive. And that's not something that I remember from Lankan Bowlers. So I think perhaps maybe he's worked on something there, and he could be quite a useful bowler.
Max, are you hammering something in the back?
No, next door are having a loft conversion done. So this has been going on for about 2 months. Yeah, sorry about
that. That's okay. They're tunneling is what they call that. It's making as many of your deliveries look the same as possible so that it's difficult to pick up where it is. And like certain deliveries pair quite well for that, and certain deliveries don't. Obviously the most obvious example is like what it looks like out of the hand, and I think that's what you're saying with Ngidi. But then the recognition over like the first few yards when the batter makes the decision, front foot, back foot, how fast is it coming, is it going to do something out of the pitch? If your slower ball looks the same as like your bouncer, then the batter's in loads of trouble, aren't they? Because they don't know whether to go on the back foot and hook or duck, or whether to sort of stand there and play a flat back shot as a kind of example. So okay, maybe Ngidi's developing some skills. Max, I think we'll talk very quickly about India. They won their series 3-0. The final match 225 for 3. Shubman Gill 98 off 98. In a 36 over match, I feel like you should get 100 there, but he'll be happy with that. West Indies fell in a heap. It was a closer series than 3-0. West Indies probably unlucky to not win at least one of the other 2 matches.
Yeah, so 3 runs, 2 wickets with 2 balls remaining. I mean, that's you should get losing points for that, shouldn't you?
Yeah,
like a bonus point or something.
No, I agree. Yeah, so unlucky there. Looks like they're going through the qualifiers for the World Cup, which is unfortunate for them. And in Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Sri Lanka drew 1-1 with Sri Lanka coming back in that second match to win reasonably comfortably. Albeit on the final day. Pakistan had a good chance, I think, of drawing, but
obviously the big story of that series is Prabhat Jayasuriya, the latest off the rank in Sri Lankan bowlers. Who are they good, or will they be discarded in the next year or so?
Are they good, or are they just playing in Sri Lanka? I think haven't like a bunch of his. I don't know. He's taken like 28 wickets.
I think it's 29 wickets in 3 games at 20.17 or something.
But he's got like Steve Smith out twice, Labuschagne out twice, Babar Azam out 3 times.
Yeah, proper players.
Is it Abdullah Shafiq, the opener, who averages about 1,000 in Test cricket at the moment? He's got him out a few times as well. Like they're players. Yeah, it's not like with Embledenia when he was bowling to England and he was getting English players out. It was so obvious that what was happening there was that England
can't play spin in Sri Lanka.
And it was spinning just enough to be a challenge. And then like he went on a world tour of being awful. And as soon as a team that turned up as soon as a team who could actually play spin turned up in Sri Lanka, he was awful. I think Jayasuriya guy looks a little bit better than that. From what I've seen, I mean, it's all that, and I'm saying this. A lot of it's been highlights. Like I don't think that Pakistan match was broadcast anywhere in the UK, which has been annoying because it's it's nice to it's actually not the worst time zone to catch it in the afternoon or evening session before you go to work, or while you're having your coffee and reading your first emails. But c'est la vie. That's world cricket news. We should mention, Max, we're going to go on to questions now, but we need to tell our listeners about our sponsor. So support for the Cricket Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, Max.
Do they?
I like that little
That's
rhyme.
very nice. Yeah.
Manscaped, they've recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the performance package. And they've been kind enough to send Max and myself one each. I didn't prep for this. My performance package is in the other room, so I'm going to hand over to you in a second to talk a little bit more about this, and I will come back and with the goods. Basically, this is the message for now. Join over 5 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. So you can get 20% off. Not you, Max. I've already got one. I could get 20% off, but
we could buy no point because I've got it already.
Yeah. You could get it as a gift.
I get it as a present. Yeah.
Here you go, brother. Here is a ball trimmer.
You're looking a little disheveled.
Yeah, like you need to up your game below the waist. Let's talk less about your brother and more about the offer. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with this code. Not the Cricket Pod. Don't put the at the beginning. It's Cricket Pod. Okay, it's in the show notes.
Yeah,
just copy and paste it. You can click the link. Manscaped.com. So write in now, manscaped.com. Pick your product and put the code Cricket Pod in for 20% off. Max, I'm going to pass over to you, and then I'm going to quickly dash into the other room, and I'll be back. So you've got 30 seconds of air to fill.
Lovely. Well, I came semi-prepared, and I did bring the Lawnmower 4.0, which is the key part of your performance package. Lawnmower 4.0, the future of grooming, perhaps the greatest ball trimmer ever, or so I'm told. And it is actually a pretty nice looking piece of kit, I have to say. You can listen to its lovely tones there. That might be better than hammering in the background. It's got a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce the chance of grooming accidents, which I'm sure you'll all be pleased to hear. And also has an LED spotlight for more precision shaving, or maybe if the lights go out because Russia's cut off the gas, and you need to do it in the dark. You'll also find in your performance package, which I'm sure Jack will delightfully show you when he comes back, the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, and your lovely crop preserver and crop reviver below the waist deodorant and toner, and there it is, beautifully shown by my glamorous assistant on the screen. There's also showing there the one of the extra gifts you get, the travel bag. I believe that was Jack you were showing there.
It was.
And have you tried the underwear yet? Is it comfy? I've heard from Ross's brother that it's very comfortable.
The underwear is fantastic.
Yeah.
Top boxes. Basically what we're trying to do is, in cricket matches, when the ball gets thrown to the umpire because it's gone a bit scraggly, and they get those stupid scissors out.
Oh, what they need is they need this.
They need them. That's what we're saying. We're saying upgrade from the stupid scissors. Get them away from your testicles. Get yourself a manscaper.
That would be incredible. It's time for a Manscaped ball trim.
Yeah. I mean, it's crying out for the product placement
during the See It Tires strategic timeout.
That's what we're trying to do for you. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CricketPod at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code CricketPod. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All in the show notes. Right, Max, we've got a bunch of questions. We'll start with Paul, and this is interesting because we haven't quite got around to doing our preview show for this, but we will shortly. Mm-hmm. Who do you make as favourites for the 100 this year, the men's and women's? Who are you most looking forward to watching in the hundo?
That's a good one. You know what? I do quite like Dan Weston's boys, I've got to say. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to like about the Phoenix squad all the way through. I mean, we'll forget about Matthew Wade for a second, but he's there to keep wicket. He did his job. But there's Moeen, they've got Benny Howell, everyone's favorite, Liam Livingston, Will Smead, Imran Tahir's just like 100 specialists now. Chris Wokes. I mean, they've got star quality all the way through. So I think they're in with a good shout. And obviously they'll play cricket the right way. So we should want them to win. I have to say on the women's side, I'm less sure. I think I don't know how much the sides have changed, because obviously there's the Australians are around now, aren't they? So that's going to throw a few curveballs into the mix. But I do like my Oval Invincibles.
I think I'd back them to probably retain their title if I was gonna take a punt. I think Birmingham Phoenix are a good call on the men's side too. Southern Brave will be there or thereabouts. I don't think they've had like a huge turnover in players, have they? So it's
your turn for weird background noises now, Jack. Some screeching.
I don't know what's going on there. Something
high quality.
Something's happening. Abe says, if everyone is fit and available, what is South Africa's best batting lineup, and where does that rank them compared to other countries? So I'm assuming this means T20. I don't think they're that far away from it, to be honest, with the side they've been putting out. What did I say? Maybe Heinrich Klaassen is a bit underpowered. I don't know who they slot in there. Devil Brevis.
You've got I guess
Rassie.
your options are Rassie or Devil Brevis. Yeah, they're the two that you might throw in. But yeah, no, I agree. Aside from that, I think probably I mean Temba Bavuma. He's a bit slow scoring, isn't he?
Well, I think Bavuma is their white ball captain, isn't he? So he'll probably end up coming back in. I don't know if that improves the team.
Obviously, he's out of this series.
But
yeah,
he's quite an impressive bloke, though, Bavuma, isn't he?
He is.
Probably slightly underrated cricketer all round as well.
I think so.
If he'd got 400s in Test cricket instead of one, I don't think it would be a dispute. But because he only plays good innings, and I mean, against India, he was good, wasn't he, earlier in this year? Because he played really good innings, but didn't get the 100. I think people, if you didn't watch the game, you didn't maybe realise how well he had played.
Speaks so well as well, Temba Bavuma. Very, very impressive interviewee.
Yeah, and I think for without wanting to go way off into the weeds, I think for a nation like South Africa, it's important to have that kind of leadership. Sada says, who of the three of us is the best cricketer? No, well, it's not Ross, is he? So he's not around. So.
I think we did that. Didn't we do that on a Patreon episode?
We did do it on a Patreon episode. We talked about it at length. I think it depends on what you want. Max is a wicketkeeper, probably the best bowler. Ross is quite a good batter. Jamie says, is the Commonwealth Games a good tester for cricket to be included at the Olympics? That's an interesting one. What do you reckon, Max?
Absolutely. If it goes well, I don't see why it shouldn't be. Is it America the next Olympics?
Yeah, it's LA.
So, I mean,
and
they're trying to build cricket, aren't they? They're really trying to build cricket in the US. So I think that's a really good opportunity to try and get it going over there. I think it's great that it's in the Commonwealth Games. Obviously, it's shortening the women's hundreds slightly from 8 group games to 6 group games, but definitely for the best. To try and get it on more of a global platform. Maybe try and get some of the less involved nations into it. Broadcast it to places that might not ordinarily watch cricket. I think it's a really good thing, Commonwealth-wise, and. Yeah, absolutely. If it's a success, then it's only good evidence as to why it should be included in the Olympics. Obviously, there's some funding implications as well, aren't there, for cricket in general, because like government funding for sport is related to whether it's an Olympic sport and how well you do in the Olympics, which seems a little backwards to me. If you do well in the Olympics, you get more money. It's a bit of a vicious cycle kind of thing. But
I think, to be honest, I think cricket being at the Olympics would be good. I think it will end up at the Olympics.
I mean, some of the stuff it is at the Olympics.
I mean, that's true. But I think just because of the number of people in India and the money in it, the IOC will probably put cricket in the Olympics. Yeah, because I don't live in India. I don't actually know that much about Indian athletics culture. But my understanding from speaking with people who do is that it's not, it's
like track and field.
They won one track and field medal. Yeah. So what are the routes to penetration in India? Well, cricket is definitely one of them.
Yeah, hockey.
So, hockey, yeah.
I think it's either. I think shooting or archery. I think there is another quite big one. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah, certainly not.
But if you were the IOC and you wanted to expand the reach of the Olympics, putting cricket in for India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka, massive number of people that will watch that. I think some people in cricket think that cricket being at the Olympics will mean it suddenly breaks in China. I don't see that happening. Like, you don't see, rugby sevens is played at the Olympics. You don't see thousands of people in China playing rugby sevens. Like, it's, I think it will remain. It might expand it slightly, but I don't know if it will be.
But it's worth a go, isn't it? I mean, no harm in trying.
I think the world's second most watched sport should be at the Olympics. Yeah. If football is, if rugby sevens is, if a bunch of these other, weird sports, let's be honest, then why shouldn't cricket be? Softball was at the last Olympics, wasn't it? And baseball, I think. I think that might have been because it was in Japan, and you can sort of add a sport here and there. But like cricket, the number of people who watch it much bigger than baseball. I think it's
definitely.
Vidget says you see IPL owners take over many other leagues and create. Or do we see IPL? Do we see IPL owners taking over other leagues and creating similar teams? I think it's probably off the back of the news that they've done it in South Africa, haven't they? All of the 6 franchises there have been bought. I don't really know what the direction of travel is with that, to be honest. I think South Africa is a particularly attractive market because it fits. I was
going to say, if there's enough money in it, then
it fits nicely into a bunch of time zones. It's got some good stadiums. You can market it pretty well. I mean, like you could play games in the exact same time slot as they play the IPL matches, and that would kind of make sense for the domestic audience in South Africa. It would make sense you could sell it to India. It kind of tracks even into the States, or for the people, for people who like cricket there. And there are people in the States who like cricket, believe it or not. And it works well in the UK market as well. So I think there's an attraction to having that. Plus there's the talent and so on. Yeah. I don't know what the end goal is with some of these. I would think to some extent the people making the purchases of these franchises aren't absolutely sure as well, but they don't want to be left in a situation like with the IPL now, where you enter 10 years down the line and it costs 10 times as much. To like it's probably I mean, if I owned Mumbai Indians, the capital appreciation just from owning the Mumbai Indians makes speculating on this, trivial. Like it's so worth it. Yeah. If we end up with a situation, and I think what we might see is a little bit of pressure on the BCCI to allow this. If we end up with a situation where some Indian players are allowed to play in things like the South African League, I could see it getting massive, or relative to like other leagues that aren't the IPL. Like if it became, a 1 month tune-up league basically for the IPL, played pre-auction or something like that, with 30 uncapped or 30 less than 10 capped IPL Indian players. It'd be like a bigger version of minor league baseball. I think it'd be pretty interesting. I really don't know what their objective is. I mean, it's pretty clear that South Africa want to create a domestic league that makes money to underwrite their whole whole cricket situation basically, and that's what they want. But I don't know on a global basis. What do you
want to keep an eye on for sure?
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. Obviously, we've seen some toes dipped in the waters in terms of the CPL, what with the Knight Riders. So there's already some crossover, but the fact that they bought the whole lot, I think is really interesting. But they're the leading franchise owners in cricket, aren't they? The IPL owners. So from that point of view, it seems just to make sense for South Africa at least to sort of like seek out those kinds of buyers for franchises. So maybe that's part of it as well. Maybe that's where they first turned to.
Yeah. A couple from Vinay, and then, there's a few more. But Vinay says, what do you make of Josh Butler's captaincy so far? I think we covered this on the last podcast. I'm not that fussed. There was one game against India where Parkinson was bowling with nobody on the square offside boundary, and actually nobody in front of square on the offside, like no short extra cover, no short mid-wicket. All of the fielders in the ring were like, there were 2 third men, 2 short thirds, a backward point and a short fine leg. And that was really weird. But I'm assuming that he didn't come up with that plan on the fly, and that there was some strategy behind it. Bit odd. I don't think it makes that much difference, to be honest. He's not Owen Morgan. He's not playing with Owen Morgan's team either. I think you can explain the drop off in terms of a weaker bowling lineup and a weaker batting lineup. Yeah. Top 4 favourites for the T20 World Cup this year: India, England, Pakistan, South Africa.
I'd probably put Australia
at home. Australia at home, actually.
Yeah. But otherwise, agree. Yeah.
South Africa might be 5th.
Yes,
favourites.
yeah, I think so.
I mean, England could, if England turn up with a bad team, they could be down.
They could drop out for sure. Yeah.
But it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Having a look over on the other page, Udral says, well, we covered the Jason Roy. There's two parts of this question. One's about Jason Roy. We covered that. How does Ben Stokes fit into a T20 11 for England?
Moral support.
I
wouldn't have him in. I wouldn't have him in there. I'm not sure he's good enough for his batting alone. We go back to Dan Weston's theory of luxury players, right? I don't think I'd have him in for his batting alone because I think he's too. I mean, he can come off and do something spectacular, but I don't think it's reliable enough that will happen. And you're more likely to get like a 25 off 20 or 20, 30 off 30 kind of start, and then lose it. And I wouldn't have him in for his bowling because I don't think his bowling's particularly good for T20 either. So I don't think he makes the strongest side for me.
I can see a world where they play him instead of Jason Roy.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Do you reckon they'll open with him?
Yeah. He did it a little bit for
Rajasthan,
didn't he?
Yeah.
And he got a ton. I think you can accommodate him a little bit more.
You got a left-right combo up the top there as well. So that's another, you can say, you can't just open with left arm spin against us, that kind of thing.
I'd want to look more at what he matches up well against and what his power play record is and who the contenders are. I think it might be quite harsh from Phil Salt, for example. England don't need another bowling option. Really, especially an average bowling option. They've got plenty of them. It's
shock full of them.
So I think if you did look at them side by side, you might come to the conclusion that Phil Salt's a better player. But I can see that happening.
Yeah.
A couple of questions from Patreon. Reminder, patreon.com/the cricket pod. From just £4 a month, you can support us, get access to bonus shows. The Ross v Max bilateral series is the last episode. There's a Getting to Know Us pod. There was our Player of 2021. We did a 7-a-side draft, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
There's a few other shows. We've got one coming up in August.
They're good fun. Enjoy them.
Yeah. They're a little bit off topic. Like you can sort of listen to them whenever you want. VJ says, who do you think Moeen should have been made captain instead of Butler? Again, I don't think it makes that much difference.
No.
I don't think Butler is really doing anything wrong.
No. And it would have been a weird one to say you're our vice captain, but actually we're going to pick someone else who was in the team anyway.
Yeah. Sudeep asks, what would our Indian playing 11 be for the ODI World Cup in 2023? That's a pretty difficult one. Bowlers first, Bumrah, Chahal, Shami, another.
It could be Prashad Krishna if he continues. Bhuvi if he stays fit.
Could be Bhuvi. You can sort of bring anyone you want. Then Jadeja and Hardik as all rounders.
Yeah.
What's that gets up to 7-6, then 5 batters. They're going to have Rohit Sharma because he'll be the captain.
King Legend
will probably play.
Virat Kohli. Do you reckon Virat Kohli makes it?
Probably not on ability, but I imagine he'll be there. And then I don't know who else. We need to pick 2 more players.
Rishabh Pant.
Yeah, definitely have Rishabh Pant, I think, in an ODI.
And then Sky,
yeah. And then Shreyas Iyer maybe a little bit unlucky to not play instead of Kohli. Something like that, I think, would be close. I think there might be a couple of better other picks. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've got
records.
Yeah, absolutely.
In 50 over.
And we've got a year for guys to come out of the woodwork a bit and stake a claim, and another year of Kohli's decline or Rohit Sharma.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but something like that, certainly.
And final question: what do we make of Puran as a player and as a captain?
He's sort of come back a bit, hasn't he? We slated him quite a lot over the last year or so for being done, but actually, he had a reasonable IPL in a pretty shonky team, and for West Indies, he's shown some form. So I think there's still enough there to go with. I don't know. I mean, the captaincy side, I'm not sure. I haven't really done a deep dive into what his captaincy is like. I don't know if you have a view on
Not really. I mean, he bowled himself, didn't he?
Yeah, took a wicket. So
got a wicket. So he's, on that front, pretty good. I think I think there's a point of view on some white ball specialists that because they may not have the technical grounding of people who have played red ball cricket, it might not be red ball specialists, but people with some first class cricket under their belt, that when things go wrong, they might not have any fundamentals to fall back on. Right. So things can go really
wrong. You lose your hands, as Steve Smith puts it.
Yeah, and I wonder. I think Puran has never played a 4-day game.
Right.
I wonder whether Puran went through a spell where he basically didn't have a proper technique. People worked him out a little bit, and it took a while for him to figure out what would work for him again to get him back to a decent level, if that makes sense. Very talented player. I think he's heading back in that direction. I think the initial Puran explosion might have been a little bit of a mirage. I don't know if he'll be that good ever again, but I think he could be a very solid, like a third choice overseas player in the IPL. I don't really have a problem with him captaining the West Indies team in white ball cricket.
He's
and he'll have some brilliant
senior
moments,
now,
no doubt.
Senior guy. So
he'll have some pretty brilliant moments, I'd have thought. I don't know if he'll be like the next Pollard. Okay, Max, we're done. End of the podcast. Patreon.com/the cricket pod. Thank you to our pals at Manscaped. Quality products. Thumbs up.
20% off.
Get your umpire scissors out of there and get yourself a lawnmower 4.0. See you later, everyone.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.